Don't exactly know what Alex is up to. So I guess he let his dog outside, like outside. I thought the idea was he was letting his dog inside his room, but I don't believe that was the case.
And
He's
it never
back.
will be the case. Hello and welcome. My name is Alex Gonzalez, and with me today is my good old friend, J.E.
Hey, that's me.
And please remember that we are not game devs. How are you doing today, Jay?
I'm doing all right, Alex. I just realized, like, I meant to switch out this chair a long time ago because it's squeaky, and I bet it goes onto the recording. You hear that?
Yeah, you gotta try though. That's like, like you're throwing yourself back in the chair. Like I'd have to say something that would really astonish you, I think. Or I know what you mean. You probably will lean back at some point and try to relax, but now you have to sit up on like it hurts your lower back when you sit on like the tips of your bum. You know what I'm talking about? The tippy tops.
Yeah.
But those are not the body parts we are talking about today. Today we are creating something new. Every week, We Are Not Game Devs will create a new exciting video game idea that we have always wanted to play, but do not have any knowledge or know how to create the wonderful experience that is video games. And today is my turn to present We Are Not Game Devs, 108th IP. And we're going to begin with this basic concept. I want this to be a game. And I don't know what genre of game this will be. It could be Dark Souls. It could be platforming. It could be maybe both. I want this to be a game where you're an adult and the game takes place like this. You go to sleep and you are a lucid dreamer to an extent, and you have to battle through your dreams. If it takes too long, like in real life, dreams only last so long, and then you switch into the middle of another dream. I want to switch levels like that with occasional nightmares. And if you can't figure out the puzzle or anything, or it takes too long on the enemy, it'll switch into something else. And I don't know where to go from there. But that's as far as I got. I thought it was a really cool concept, an idea I created with dreams and kind of moving through that. I actually got inspired a little bit by the Ratchet and Clank press conference or Sony sizzle reel, where he was switching back and forth. It wouldn't be as fast like that, but something to that effect, where all of a sudden you're getting in there. And I want there to be kind of dream effects where it's when you're playing in these levels, it's very abstract. I want running to feel weird sometimes. I want punching to feel weird, where you have to maybe use specific mechanics in the dream.
All right. So
I apologize to all the listeners. My dog is going crazy.
I have a couple ideas here. I like where it's going. I did want actually the switching of the nightmare dream thing to be not even as fast as that Ratchet and Clank Rift teleporting demo, but in a sense even faster, where this is how I imagine the shifting to happen, where you're in the dream world, you're kind of lucid dreaming and stuff, right? But then I imagine this to be kind of like a 3D platformer puzzler kind of thing, where you're like jumping around to solve puzzles. But there's some kind of timer happening, and that timer is your maybe like a lucid dream state timer or something. And then when that ends, whatever level or area you're in right now, it shifts into the nightmare mode level, and so it just kind of rotates into it. And that's kind of where you do light combat, where you fight off these like demons or whatever is chasing you, and it could be different for whatever area it happens to shift into the the nightmare mode. So like maybe you're having a dream where you're in like a farm, and then like evil farmer guy comes and attacks you in the nightmare scene and stuff like that.
And it can be stuff where maybe even the dream steadily becomes more nightmarish as it continues on. So like you're a farmer toiling the fields for some reason, and you're doing your thing, and maybe it starts out like the main action, the game will say like, oh, press square and start toiling the fields with your hoe. Press O to plant the seed. And then eventually maybe it starts changing onwards. Yeah. I would like this to have a certain feel to it, where maybe we'll say that this person is participating in a sleep study, and you have to do this sleep study for 30 days straight. And that's where the mechanics is going to be, that they're going to have their own job, their own stuff. Maybe you'll see what inspires the dreams as they go through their working world. I don't know what you're going to do. I think it'd be cool if you could choose from a couple different jobs, just that way it influences the dream, so it's not the same every time. But I don't know. I don't know if that would be the case.
In my head, I kind of had it where we were telling like a specific story. So it's like, yeah, each playthrough you're going through the same thing, but we could have it where you could kind of choose different paths or something like that. But another idea I did have was maybe to transition from dream to dream, or to create certain moments on certain stages. It'll look like, so you know how in video games when you switch from gameplay to cutscenes, sometimes you could obviously tell, oh, this is cutscene. Oh, this is gameplay. I feel like the cutscenes in this game are gonna be more like just the same, not graphics, but it's the same, like it's made in engine, right? Like all the cutscenes will be made in engine, and I want there to be certain cutscenes where it looks like you're playing, but then all of a sudden, as the player, you'll notice, oh, I'm not in control anymore, and that's when it's just your character plays out however we want it to play out, because he is dreaming, and sometimes you don't have total control, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that I do get. I'm cool with all that. We're gonna have to make it. I want to make it like where it's the everyday nature of this person. I'm thinking of a guy. It can be a woman. It doesn't really matter for this course, but they just go through their everyday, and then somehow little pieces of those are taken and made like abstract and perverse in the dream or nightmares. So stuff like you get off of the metro or whatever, and you see a giant clock on a building, and then all of a sudden, like maybe. Reminiscent of Salvador Dali, all of a sudden you start seeing melting clocks everywhere as maybe you were late to work that day as you're doing the sleep study. Yeah. This is obviously going to be a game where you're going to play as the main character, and there may be characters that you meet like during the day, and then there'll be dream selves and stuff. But I think it would be cool also if there's just completely made up dream characters. You know how, have you ever done that where you've just made a person up? Like, have you ever just made somebody up in your dream where it's somebody you maybe have never met before? Supposedly it's someone you could have seen, and then your brain stores and then recreates them. For the purposes of this, I mean,
I've definitely had dreams where I didn't recognize the person who was in my dream. But like you said,
I wonder, what if what we do is, because you're participating in a sleep study, there's other people around you too that are participating in the sleep study. And after a certain time of you experiencing these nightmares and dreams, they help you out or appear in your dream. And it's maybe just because of weird drugs or something. And then they help you out navigating the dream so you can kind of move forward.
I like that, where we could have reoccurring characters that come in and out of certain areas. Maybe like you'll meet, like you said, the subway station or metro station, you meet someone else there that you've seen at the metro station, and they're taking the sleep study. You didn't know that they were there, but it's someone that is somewhere where you both frequent and see each other from time to time. They might never have interacted in real life, or they could have, but in the dream, they are interacting now because they notice that you're a real person, I'm a real person in this thing that we're doing.
Now, I don't know where to take it. It can be, or it can be multiple genres. It can be a little scary. It can be fun. It can be weird, because all these things happen in dreams, and they can be all these things at once too. Sometimes it's shocking, sometimes it's sweet, sometimes.
I think it could be multiple genres in terms that all the different levels or stages, whatever you want to call them, feel like a different type of game. But in terms of gameplay, I want to say it's kind of like a third person, not platformer, but there will be platforming in it, and then maybe like some action elements. But it's going to be more like, it's not like you're going to do heavy combat like Legend of Zelda, but the combat's going to be kind of more like, I guess, like Resident Evil 7, where you'll attack sometimes, but for the most part, you're just running around, jumping around. You know what I mean?
If that's the case, I like that idea. So we'll do third person action, but you're not attacking all the time. So I want the weapon to kind of change depending. So whatever you summon is just going to be fun and whatever it happens to be at that time, whether that's like your Little League baseball bat, or you happen to summon Excalibur if you're particularly feeling yourself. Or maybe one time you try to summon a weapon and it ends up being a snake and you have to like throw it away and keep running. Like, maybe it fails sometimes.
Yeah. But I did want combat to be exclusive to, I don't know if you still wanted to do this, but like the
nightmares.
/ dream states, where like if you're taking too long on a puzzle, or if you get caught by a bad entity during the dream sequence, then it will switch over to a nightmare sequence where you have to fight off dream enemies with whatever you can use or whatever.
Okay, I'm cool with that. I like that idea. So with the dreaming thing, and we're going to do kind of semi-platforming. In dreams, we don't have to abide by normal rules. So, there will be, what do you think about different rules for the universe is changing? So maybe sometimes there'll be like wind currents that take you up, or all of a sudden the dream will continue sideways, or you can walk on a wall and then continue up through the gravity, Yeah,
I think we should play around with just playing around with random physics and stuff like that. And like maybe in one dream you're a fish or like a bird.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's,
or you can be all those things, like in the dream where you're a worm, and then you're a bird that eats the worm, and then you're a bigger bird that eats the bird.
Yeah.
And like you're going through all that.
I'm also trying to think like I like the idea you mentioned earlier, where as the game progresses, so it just starts off, seems pretty normal, like you're in the metro and then you're walking around and something weird happens, something triggers like kind of like a mental breakdown sort of, and then it starts to get slowly more nightmarish, and then you beat like maybe like a boss or something, which is like a puzzle mechanic, a more puzzle rather than combat mechanic style boss, right? But as you keep playing this game, you go into more and more weird areas, and then all of a sudden you're in places where your character, like maybe it's like through voiceover where he's like, I've never even been here before, I don't know where I am, type of thing.
Yeah.
And maybe it could be like, oh, now you're in someone else's dream, type of thing. But I like the idea where as the game continues to go on, and as you've been asleep doing this study for longer and longer, it does start to slowly turn more nightmarish, even without the nightmare switch. So maybe eventually the nightmare switch happens faster and faster, and then you'll also notice that some dream states are part nightmarish. So I guess the combat won't be exclusive to the nightmare scenes near the end of the game. You know what I mean?
What if we find out as we go through the game that the sleep study is actually making people have nightmares, and they're recording the data, and what you find out is you end up having to go, maybe the final crescendo or the final act is you on this last sleep study date where they maybe want to cause some psychotic breaks or see what's going on. You go in and actually go into everybody's nightmare and help out. I'm thinking like maybe 5 people.
Yeah, like Mementos and Persona. You go into everyone's dream state.
Yeah, if this, under the hood, this game is equal parts Catherine, Persona, all kinds of stuff going on here.
I like that, where like at the end you find out that the scientist doing the test is like trying to figure out what induces fear in people through dreams or something, right? And so then they use it to try and induce fear in like a whole area of people or something, and then
or he's trying to get money, and he knows there's negative effects, but he still wants to pass it through because he's getting a big payoff by the company.
and maybe like you and kind of like in Ready Player One, where you and your closest buddies that you met during this study that you've also met in real life, sort
Oh,
of,
that's
but kind
right.
of
That's
not.
right. Yeah.
You guys all team up and be like, hey, we got to stop this, and then you guys set up your own dream surfing machine in someone's apartment in their garage or something, and then that's what you use to go stop the big bad.
Yeah, yeah. Like you steal maybe a prototype equipment that they had just in a box
Yeah,
somewhere, and then you
like
get that going.
original Assassin's Creed style, you know?
Yeah, and we can even make it where you gain an extra power because this one's unstable. So
Mm,
maybe like you're tied a little bit to reality or something like that. Okay, that's cool. Uh, I'm liking all of that. So we've got it where just to nail down the genre here, you're moving through these puzzles, and they're going to be very simple puzzles where it's going to be platforming, you trying to get to the end version. Maybe there'll be an outlet. Maybe that's like a door, a window, a hole in the ground, whatever it be, just like a way out. Um, what would be the signal here? I guess maybe light shining through or something like that, just to get to the end of that level.
right.
And besides that, you'll be able to do it through platforming and occasional action.
Maybe there'd just
So
be like some kind of guard or a lock mechanic, and then there's obvious like, oh, I have to do, and it has like, let's say it's a lock, and then you could see things extending out from the lock, and then you're like, oh, I have to go to the places where the lock extends out to, figure out a puzzle there to unlock that portion, and then start doing that for all of them, and then that unlocks the door to the next dream or whatever.
that works. And then maybe like, so when you unlock it and once you're done with the dreams, you wake up and like you'll have a different expression and then go through regular life and do it that way. Uh, so for the music for this game, my dog's speaking whenever I'm speaking now at this point. So she used to have a caretaker, but due to circumstances and economic sanctions, economic things, this is what's happening right now. I'm dealing with her at this time. Just saying again, apologies for everybody in there. The music, it can't be one thing because it's a dream. So I see it being a bunch of different stuff, from discordant orchestraic stuff. Like I know in scary movies, people get down on making weird ass sounds on violins that creep me out. Same thing with cello. But I imagine this also having different like music that gets really bizarre and off. What do you call it when it
Off key.
happens like that? You know, huh?
Off key.
Is that, yeah, off key? There we go. The one that did it big was that one with the demon who spins the wheel. Do you know what I'm talking about? Where there was like music that would play, look like a goat guy. Scary movie. You know what I'm talking about?
No,
You
no,
know,
I
the
don't.
one you don't watch scary movies. That's right. You ain't no spooky. But that's what I'm thinking. What do you think about that? You're usually better with music.
Yeah, no, we could definitely make it like
Maybe
right
as the
for whatever the
nightmares
thing is.
enter, or you start getting more and more messes, like when you start messing up more and more, we'll add a little bit of anxiety by making the music off key. So there's certain notes where the music starts coming off that, you know, nightmares are coming.
Yeah. I don't know also how you pictured it, but I do kind of picture this kind of more a 2D platformer. I don't know if that's how you're picturing it, but I see it kind of like
I can do it either way. I could see it 2D or 3D. It's more, my vision's more of the aesthetic and the physics, like you said, of how the world will behave.
like I feel like it's gonna play and kind of look like a less cartoony version of Little Big Planet, where the backgrounds are like photorealistic and 3D. You know what I mean? But you're jumping around on like platforms that are in ours. They're not gonna be like floating platforms, but they're gonna be like a car or like a bookshelf that you have to climb over and stuff like that. But like it's gonna look realistic with like 3D picture-esque backgrounds, but kind of more like Limbo and how it plays. You know what I mean? And also kind of more of the art style. I'm thinking more on Limbo's side, where it's kind of like realistic but stylistic at the same time.
Okay. All right. So I'm cool with keeping it to 2D, but in terms of how this game's going to look, I want this game to have a bunch of different looks to it. Different art style, because first off, I want there to be different art styles when you're appearing in other people's dreams. Because everyone sees the world differently already as it is. And I'd want there to be, depending on the dream or nightmare, for it also to have certain art styles as well. Not dramatically change, but little shifts here and there. Like if you're in a nightmare, maybe the lines are drawn more harshly. And the colors.
What if we do pretty drastic changes where like maybe one of the people that is in the study is like colorblind, you know? And then maybe there's one of the nights or the sleep study people who are completely just blind in general. So it's just gonna be all sorts of crazy.
Let's make one person then blind, because that would be insane if it's like that abstract where it's like forms and stuff, you know?
Yeah. I think a colorblind one would be cool, or like maybe someone who's just really obsessed with like noir-esque stuff like Sin City, where it's like everything's black and white except for one color or something like that.
Or in the same vein, someone who's really into 50s sitcoms, so it's like a Leave It to Beaver kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
Where there's a laugh track and everything.
Oh, that'd be interesting. Yeah.
Right. All right. So with this, now we have 2D, third person, platforming, with some action elements where the art style is going to be constantly changing with discordant music playing as the nightmares come in. Where would you put this in terms of price? It's hard to say. We never discussed whether it would be, well, obviously it won't be realistic because it's in a dream. So there's a discussion.
Well, I think it's certain. So I think some scenes and imagery will look like pretty realistic. I'm thinking like Unraveled, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like you said, some will look like Little Big Planet, and then some will look like freaking Unfinished Swan. You know what I mean? Just like a crazy amounts of different types of art styles. But I feel like how realistic it's gonna, like the graphics are gonna look good. I think no matter what. Like Unraveled could do it. So like it's that kind of quality is what I'm thinking of in terms of the graphics. So in terms of price, I'm thinking either $30 or $40.
Yeah, I had it. Usually when someone makes a game, they usually don't argue for the lower price point, but I feel like $30 is the sweet spot here.
Right. I like $30. That's my first instinct for it.
All right, good. So we're on the same page once again for price points. All right, Jay. I'm figuring you're ready, but you better get that timer out because we're going to name this game.
Go. I have a perfect one.
Waking Nightmares.
Mine's Night Terrors.
Night Terrors? I like Night Terrors.
All right,
At what time?
8:30.
8:30. So Night Terrors is, and I've given an overview just because I've said it several times this podcast to kind of get a handle on this game because it's a little abstract, is a third-person 2D platformer where you go in between different dreams as you participate in this sleep study. What you find out in your dreams will be more than you ever would have known in Night Terrors. Will you make it? All right. So I think we have a game here, Jay. Would this be a game that you'd want to play, and is it fun?
I think I would, if I have the chance to, I would give it a shot. I'm not the biggest fan of 2D platforming type of games. But I feel like not the day and night cycle, but the nightmare dream cycle that's in the game. I feel like that is a cool enough twist where I'd be interested to give it a shot. That's what would stand out to me the most, I think, if I saw a trailer for it. But yeah, I think if I did play it, I'll have fun with it as long as it's not too difficult in terms of the platforming puzzles you would have to do. What about you, Alex?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. If it's too difficult to figure out in terms of puzzles, I'm not going to do it. If it's interesting, I would want to go through all the levels. I like experiences like that where you're going into a dream, you're evaluating psyches. It's really stuff that it hasn't been done. So I would be interested just for that. And like you said, also, In dreams, anything can happen, so I would be wanting anything to happen. I'd be kind of waiting on that and excited about it. All right, now that we have a complete game, what studio would you assign to make Night Terrors the best?
I've got 2 for you. The first
All
one
right.
is, I don't know how to pronounce this, so sorry to the developers, but it's Tarsier Studios. They're the guys that made Little Nightmares, which is a side-scrolling game that came out a couple years back where all the environments
I play it.
Yeah, it seems like such a cool idea where all the people that your character sees are in the perspective of a little kid who's super scared of the dark or something like that. So people look huge, certain things look bigger, their shadows look bigger. Like, it's such a cool idea, and it has such a similar kind of like concept to Night Terrors does. I think it would translate really well for them, and also that they already know how to make kind of more horror aspects. So I think they could do the scary part of this game really, really well.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Mine, shooting off the hip, would be Rocksteady Studios. I think what they did with some of the dream portions of Batman were fantastic, and they also take a lot of good dark takes as well as artistic liberties that I think they could express in this game and go a little bit more.
Yeah,
like, Scarecrow, Joker stuff.
Right. I have another one, which is Play Dead. We mentioned their game earlier in the podcast, but they did Limbo and Inside, and I feel like it's just natural progression for them to do something a little bit more on the nose story wise than such a more abstract art type of game. You know
how excited I would be if there was like a email in our inbox about Play Dead being like, hey, this is a great idea, I don't think anyone else could do this but us, could we take this on? Like, hell yeah. What are you guys gonna do? Right. That's definitely a great one. In fact, I don't even want to go in with mine because it's a repeat that I always say.
Kojima
and with
Productions.
That, Kojima would actually be pretty good. That's not what I was thinking of. He would do well with here. Abstract, are you kidding me? Where he's like, how fucked up can I make these dreams? Well on fire? Where's the line? And with that, our 108th IP has gone gold. We hope you look forward to this experience that will probably never release. At Kojima. You can write to @poundgames@gmail.com if you have anything to patch into the game we create today. Also give us feedback. We are still learning how to make this show better, and your feedback really helps. We have a Patreon. If you'd like to back our ideas, please head over to patreon.com/wearenotgamedevs. Patrons receive episodes 2 days early and an extra podcast at the beginning, which you caught the tail end of our conversation at the beginning of this episode. That's patreon.com/wearenotgamedevs. If you liked our show, why not subscribe and give us all the stars on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Store, Spotify, YouTube, and more. And if they ask for a review, instead of reviewing our show, become your inner game critic and review Night Terrors, the video game we just created. Thank you for joining us today. We'll be back next Friday with another new IP. Again, my name is Alex Gonzalez.
And I'm Jay Yee.
Thank you, and please remember that we are not game devs. Did you notice that she settled down right as we were finishing?
Yeah, no.
No, there she is. Oh, of course. There we go. Consistency.